puzzling parable, this week's gospel. It's drawn from the shabby workaday world. A shifty-eyed steward swindles his employer and manipulates his master's money for himself. He is found out and finds a way. Now, Jesus uses this unsavory tale as a way to invite us to reflect upon and measure how we respond in faith to the crises of life, because we say we are his disciples. Now, certainly the parable connects with the lust for money. This theme weaves its way throughout Luke's gospel. But not all of us are rich. Most of us get getting along. And most of us really do not lust for money. We've come to that point where we realize the utter insignificance of piling it all up. It just doesn't make any sense. So we are living then in a world, that in which we are not owners. But there's more here. What struck me is the realism of Jesus. He sees the world as it sometimes is, alive with God's presence, oh yes, but also flawed, broken, needing restoration, transformation. And so Jesus tells a story of a conniving, conscienceless crook. We recognize the rogue. He's facing a crisis, the loss of his stewardship. And he's found a way to land on his feet, a way based on self-interest, the theme of more than a few of the leaders in our world, and lead followers as well. People out for themselves for all they can get, whatever the way, no matter its effect on others. What's good for me? That's not the way of Jesus. For Jesus, it's a way of serving, of self-giving. When we experience crises in our personal lives or in our societal life, as we most certainly will, when we come up to a brick wall, for us as for the unjust steward, there's always the temptation to think that we are on our own, not accountable, and not being able to trust beyond family and friends. We're sort of on our own. But that wasn't the way of Jesus. When he faced mockery and rejection and misunderstanding, he lived the way to which he invites us. One basic conviction. No matter what was happening to him, his Father was always with him, lovingly present. And then the next thing is, Father, what do you want of me? It's not enough to say, oh yes, God is present in me. The next question must also be asked, what do you want of me in these circumstances, uniquely mine or uniquely ours? God doesn't want us to be passive in the crises of life, especially involving suffering, like those who are dispossessed, like people in Syria and in Iraq. We are to raise our minds and our hearts to search out ways, first of all, understanding, not making flip judgments, and then secondly, responding caringly. The unjust steward found ways of injustice based on self-interest. Disciples of Jesus are to find ways of self-giving, also in the way of Jesus. Last week we recalled the 15th anniversary of 9/11. Terrorists violated us. They killed more than 3,000 innocent people. And as disciples of Jesus, we are not to lash out in vengeance, lest we become like the terrorists. As a nation, many amongst us in our nation face the poverty, extreme poverty. And they, we say, live in community with us. That's a beautiful word, community. It means that we're on for one another. It means that somehow we have to use our talents and our power and our wealth for those who are really needy. Why? Because poverty breeds so many attendant consequences. Faulty education for the young, lack of adequate health care, above all, hopelessness. That's what poverty engenders. And then from that comes terrorism. We have to think about it and try to understand the complexity of the question of poverty. And then because we are middle-class people, we have to be the kind of people to say, what can I do? How can I understand this? How can I respond to it? When we do that, we're really listening to Jesus. Because throughout, especially the Gospel of Luke, that's what he's always talking about. It's like a theme. It's like a mantra. And so that is the way. Remember that wealth, power, and status has a communal dimension. And since that is so, we have to share it for the good of all. It's contrary to the ethos of the day. The ethos of the day is individualistic and very honestly greedy and too frequently indifferent. By our gathering, we profess that we are disciples of Jesus. And the themes that Jesus had of peace and unity and sharing and caring and forgiveness, those themes continually fall from his lips. As individuals and as church, we pray for wisdom and a spirit of self-giving so that we bring to these life-giving ways